And this time I was able to, I still got hit quite a lot from Ed, but I was able to stop a few things, right? Because I understood that and I was able to flow with that stuff. And so even with, whether it's with a knife, with a stick, with a magazine, with keys in your hand or anything, or empty-handed. I mean, Herb would joke around like, you know, discos were big then. It shows you how old this stuff is when I've been doing it, right? He would say, okay, you can be on the dance floor and start doing this stuff and people wouldn't know what it was, right? So he would be out here doing this stuff and he'd be doing dances, but he's actually doing stuff. He was actually doing inside sweep and checking the hand here. He's coming back with a cut, which is what? Number 4. He's driving down, he's dropping back, he's ready to deliver a 5. He's coming this way, he's doing a 5. But he did all that stuff, and then he goes to the outside, do the same thing. So he's doing a hang block, but he's doing, it looks like a dance. Yeah. But, you know, in all martial arts, a lot of that stuff was hidden in dance. All of the stuff was hidden in dance. Because people who developed that stuff, the reason they had to hide it is because their oppressors would stop them and either jail them or kill them if they found out they were practicing a martial art, because all that stuff was banned. They were under occupation somewhere, right? So that's why I always tell people to study how people fight and what they eat. For me, because that tells you a lot about it. That's because there's a lot of similarities with poor people the world over with that stuff. But anyway, that's a little bit about the Filipino stuff. Not a lot, but that's where I start.
I know Steve had mentioned that Sonny puts you a lot of the dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it all came about also?
Yeah, well, they had to hide it too. Like with the Filipino martial arts, you know, the Philippines were under Spanish rule for over 400 years, right? Mm-hmm. But the Filipinos, they weren't just brought in and assimilated easily by the Spaniards. You know, they lost a lot of people coming in there, and the Marines in the Spanish-American War got the name Leathernecks because, and this is something that Danny Inosanto talks about and other people, you know, because of what. And the first time I heard it, Herb talked about it, and then I read about it in Danny's book on Filipino martial arts. The Marines got the name Leathernecks because, like I said, during the Spanish-American War, because remember, the Philippines was still a part of Spain then, right, a colony. The Marines, you find a bunch of dead Marines and one dead Filipino, right? Bunch of dead, cut-up Marines. And because these guys they're getting cut, hacked by this Filipino with a bolo knife or with a knife, right? And so what they did, they put leather stays in the collar. And the Filipinos would call them leathernecks because it was harder to cut that leather. You couldn't slice it real quick. I mean, you can get through it, I'm sure. Chop it really good, you get through it. But I mean, it wouldn't cut, you know? So the Filipinos nicknamed them leathernecks. That's how they got the name leathernecks, right? Also, the .45 automatic was invented because of that. Okay, because like I said, you have one dead Filipino, 4 or 5 dead Marines, right? Well, they could get off shots with their revolvers, but they're in a I don't like the word jungle, but they're in a highly vegetated area. I don't like the word jungle because if you see densely area of vegetation and greenery in Europe, they'll name it a forest, but anywhere else they call it a jungle. I don't get that. I just don't get that. So I don't know why they do that, but it builds a picture, a subconscious picture in your mind that I don't like. So I just say they're all just a forest, right? So anyway, you'd have they couldn't get off these shots, and they find out with this mud and sand and stuff like that, these revolvers wouldn't work. So they need to develop something, because you've got this Filipino coming in there, and they're boom, 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 and they're using your buddy as a shield against you. So you're shooting, and you can't get a clean shot off of this guy. He's hacking your friend up at the same time. He's doing all that stuff with them, right? And you can't do anything about that, right? But they eventually get him, but at what cost? 5-1. So the 45 caliber came out because it could stop you, and it didn't jam, and you can't get it off as many shots as fast with a revolver. I'm sure there are people out who could do it, quick draw artists and that sort of thing. But we're talking about the average Joe, right? Training. This is average, basic core stuff again that anybody could do. So you get that stuff. So that's where the Filipino stuff comes in. So quickly, what Herb showed. So I learned Wing Chun Do, what he was learning from Jesse at the time through corresponding with him, and the Filipino stuff. And that's what we taught for a period of time here. And that's what I continue to teach here. But I've added some things here, elements of here, this, that, and the other. But if it fits, like I said, Ed used to say, if it doesn't fit the core, don't use it. Well, if it fits what we do, and that's anything grappling to striking, right? If it fits in there and it fits in there efficiently, fine. Now I'll use it. If it doesn't, I'm not using it. Okay.
That's true.